Hello, I'm Shonda Scott, and this is Spotlight with Shonda with a very special edition of Black designers' influence on fashion. And I'm actually talking to some of my favorite fashion influencers from all across America. In fact, today we're talking to the fashion guru himself. I mean, not guru, he's actually the international award-winning fashion designer. He's on another level than a guru. Owner of Beauty Mark by Byron Lars, live from New York, Mr. Byron Lars, straight from the lab himself. And any of you to know that if you want a Byron Lars piece, you feel like Byron made it especially for you. So I'm not jealous if you feel that way, because I feel exactly the same way. And I can wear anything. Right now I have on a piece that I call my vintage Byron piece. The first time I wore it was with our First Lady, Michelle Obama, for an event we hosted in Oakland for her. And I was so happy. There's a skirt that goes with it. I love this piece. And then this top is something that is in a newer collection. So you can wear Byron vintage and Byron new together and still be fabulous with jeans or dressed up. So I'm just excited to have him here live from New York with us on Spotlight with Shonda. Welcome, Byron.
Hi, thank you. Nice to be here, Shonda. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. That's the thing about the COVID that's been what I call COVID blessings. Like in these moments, we would have never, you'd have to fly to Oakland, we'd have to be in studio, or I'd have to come to New York with cameras and crew. And now, since we're virtual, we actually can see you in New York, in Oakland, and still have you on the show just in time for New York Fashion Week.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I feel like this is it makes so much sense. I don't think after COVID we're going back ever to the way things work.
No.
It doesn't make sense.
We can't go back because you're at home, you got more time now. There's not all the travel, and you can still give out, you can still come in and be exposed to so many people across the world right from your own living room.
With a carbon footprint this big.
Exactly. Well, Byron, as you know, you are a Black designer, but you are one of the leading designers, especially if you ask me, in the world. And what's interesting, of course. But the thing we're talking about is, I saw a Netflix film called The Remix, and it showed hip hop's influence on fashion, and it made me think, how much has Black culture actually been influenced in fashion, and we haven't been celebrated or even known about it? So I'm like, let me go straight to the source. Byron Lars, first of all, I didn't even know you were African American when I first found the piece. The woman exposed me to you in Berkeley in her boutique. I didn't know. And then she said, he's an African American designer, but you have been around for years and people did not know that, except for the people who you did back in the day when you first started their prom dresses right out of the Bay Area, because you're born in Oakland, you were raised in the Bay Area. So just talk a little bit about how that's been for you as a Black man designer. How did you, see you when we're like invisible, to know that you could become who you are today?
Well, you know what? I started off in this probably the best way one could, in that, like, I really never saw being Black as a deficit entering this. Like coming from California, how like it's different now, but there was a time like many years ago when, I don't know, this whole like ideological like Shangri-La like concept really permeated our perception of reality. But I only realized in later life that it had nothing to do with reality. But in many ways, it was a great thing in that I just never saw my color as something that would like ever be at issue. I thought only, the caliber of my work. So to that end, surely I have been impacted probably both negatively and positively from being a Black man in a predominantly white industry. But I never saw that way as I entered it. And I'm glad that I didn't, you know what I mean? Like bring all that with me.
Well, that's because you were born in Oakland, and that's Wakanda. So you don't come with that. We don't even see that we can't do it. But even if you don't see yourself, but maybe in your community you saw yourself, and that inspired you in other ways.
Yes, absolutely. And as far as Black's influence on fashion. I mean, my first introduction to just like fashion, not just style, because anywhere there's Black people, there's bound to be some great, interesting things happening with probably, in many cases, like marginal resources. But you'll never see that because there's so much flavor that it's not even about that. It's not about what things cost for us. It's about the value they have. And that's one thing that I love about Black culture and Black people. But ebony was my first entree into fashion. I had no idea there was such a thing as Vogue. And not even knowing that I was interested in fashion because I wasn't aware of it. But later in life, I realized that like so many significant events that happened in my family, I can tell you everything that everybody was wearing. So clearly it was important in there. But I remember going to the back of those Ebony fashion magazines and seeing all these amazing things. And of course, in most cases, they weren't Black designers. They were European designers. And that was the Johnson family trying to like bring a world to us that we weren't invited to. And I felt very much invited. And at that time, being a kid, you don't separate models from real people and customers. So I had this notion that there were these Black people, you know, in all these Saint Laurent gowns, and there were some. But this was my perception of high fashion as a kid, is that it was an almost exclusively Black world, because that's what I saw on the pages. I mean, it's Saint Laurent. I would just really sit and ponder the lifestyle they must have to need these amazing clothes. Like,
good job for Ebony doing that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That was the point of Ebony. That's just amazing.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really applaud them for that. But as far as like Black people and their influence, I think the quintessential example of that would be the Harlem Renaissance, and how white Hollywood, you know, which was like officially from like, but in my opinion, it went long beyond that, because white Hollywood was on that like white on rice and twice on Sundays. It's like you can't look at Turner Classics without seeing so many white people doing Black shtick. Like, oh, that 30s shaking like this. And now it kind of annoys me a little bit because, you know, of the lack of credit. But it's all good because, you know what? Clearly, it got a lot of Black people work then. And as now, even like so many of us who are behind the scenes and doing things and making real impact in, you know, this visual nowness. So, you know, there's always been a place for us to like earn, but just like you said, it's not always visible, and sometimes that's a little annoying.
Yeah, so now I guess it's for like how Ebony, like you're saying, that's a perfect example of how we have to be unapologetically celebrating us and saying, yeah, we did that. Yes, this is our influence. That is our culture, and it's okay. I mean, now we have Black Twitter just putting everybody on blast about it. Like, don't you dare try to not give credit, because just like in the hip hop, the remix, they talk about Dapper Dan, and he had ran a business for all those years, and they were like, wait, Beyonce wore a new, I guess Gucci did a style of his and didn't give him credit, and he had gotten in all this issues and trouble about it, and then the Black Twitter was like, no, Dapper Dan did that style, you're gonna give him credit, and now he has a whole relationship with Gucci behind that. But then also what they were saying is that, and this is what got me, Byron, this is my moment. It was like, oh, this is interesting because I didn't even follow that. They were saying before Dapper Dan and all these other hip hop designers, the fashion houses never put their monogram on clothing. And that's where they were able to connect the dot of the influence. Because they never, of course, you know, that wasn't chic then to do, and Dapper Dan was doing that. And so that's how Right. And now you don't even see something without the G's on it on the sweater. You know, it's all over everything, right? So I said, well, that's interesting. I know we have other connections. My first entrance into understanding a Black designer, like knowing it officially, was Willie Wear. So what did Willie Wear and the Patrick Kellys pave the way for Byron Lars? I mean, how did that have any influence on you at all, their legacy?
Absolutely, because they came along at very pivotal moments in my development, because I was a young teen when Willie Smith was at the pinnacle of his success, and Patrick Kelly was just emerging. So to me, they were just like proof positive that, like, yes, not only can you do this, but you can thrive and have international recognition doing it. And with regarding Patrick Kelly, now that I didn't think you could do, like the exception of the Champs Syndical, like the official French like fashion community, that I didn't think was possible, but he did it. And I'm like, well then, I mean, sky's the limit.
Exactly.
Because, you know, I mean, there it is. So it was really great to have them as, you know, forerunners. And there were so many before them, like Sheila mentioned, so many that we never knew. And that was the one sad part about the Ebony story, which I know they didn't connect that dot. But we really needed those profile stories of Black designers that were a part of that show, that we just didn't know their names. We didn't know the Scott Berrys. We didn't know the Arthur McKees. We didn't know the Stephen Burrows. We just didn't know. We saw their clothes and they were amazing in the Virginia Slims ads and all that. But we really needed their whole story like in an article so we could get aha. Because Saint Laurent, okay, well, we see your beautiful dress on these beautiful Black women, but you got ads here and there and handbags and makeup and fragrance. So we already have like that imprint of your, you know, corporate identity there kind of as we turn the pages. And if we don't, I mean, they get some advertising even as a, you know, Ebony got advertising from them even as a result of all that. So that was the one thing that I wish we had had before there was Patrick and Willie and, you know.
Right. But I think it's probably because now in this moment, we're probably as a culture more able to feel comfortable celebrating us, and then other people are more looking for us. And, you know, so now they're like, hey, I'm a Black designer. But for a long time, they probably wanted to be anonymous. They didn't necessarily, it was like a secret. Willie Ware was in Bloomingdale's and Willie Ware was in Bullock's back then, that Macy's bought out. But you didn't necessarily, everybody didn't know he was African American. And even with you, when I first found Byron Lars, I didn't know. And the woman actually told me, you know, he's a Black designer. I'm like, oh, give me that. I'm going to be. And she's like, yeah, that's why it designs to fit your shape. I'm like, it sure does. So give me anything Byron Lars I wanted, because it made me want it even more, because it was like, wow, this is amazing. He's in Nordstrom's. He's in all these boutiques. You're an international, but no one ever I think people felt more comfortable keeping it quiet of people's African American heritage, thinking that would be a way to sell more, maybe.
Well, here's the thing. Let's be honest. The product has to speak to you. I don't want your business if you just buy me just because I'm Black. So let's start there. But I also don't want to be excluded from your field of consideration because I'm Black either. And that's unfortunately what happens, and it's systemic. We just don't even get included in the group for you to consider it. But this is why we as Black consumers have to be more intentional. And we've got to really do our due diligence to dig and see which ones of us are out there. Doesn't mean that they're going to get your business. But you need to know who they are and what they offer for you to consider them when you're about to make a purchase. I mean, that's all that any of us ask, because I think you're right. Because so many people didn't know that I was Black, and clearly this was the case, because when I would have a store appearance, sometimes I'd have a white woman excuse me, maintenance man, to get to me. And then it's right. I get up there and just yeah, I'm the guy you're here to see. Surprise.
She looked like the cat that ate the canary, oh, you're Byron.
Sorry. Sorry. Not sorry. Anyway, so that was really interesting, but it also, I don't know. It's one of those things that I think it was great for you to realize, hey, this is a Black buy, but for that not to have mattered, for this product to have spoken to you. And of course, if you're Black and you realize that there's a product that you liked as you discovered my product, it's a bonus if you realize that the resource is Black. It's hey, well, awesome.
Yeah. My eyes lit up.
Much better.
Right.
Yeah, but it still doesn't govern your decision making. And the first thing is does this product speak to me? Will it work in my life? Is it the right price? A lot of times that would be a resounding no, but can I live without it, even though it may not be the right price? So
yeah, that would be a resounding no. I can't live without it. So Byron, be real quick before we wrap up. I just need to get information while we have you, because so many people, when they found out you were going to be on the show, were like, oh, there's so many young designers that just want to know. And your story is so incredible, how you just put passion, determination, and that Oakland-born swag into a world that just opened up with blessings for you. What words of wisdom do you give these designers now? Because these young people are ready to go, and they are ready to be entrepreneurs and passionate about their fashion.
Well, here's the thing. I know that there's fewer jobs in fashion now. So the idea of entrepreneurship without the experience of working in an industry that you need to gain experience from is really not the best idea. Sometimes I understand in these times it's the only idea that's left to your avail. I would definitely caution to walk before you run, because there's so much to learn. Not just about running a business, because yes, of course there is, but even how to build compelling product, and even like really know what your voice is in that product, because you're young and you're ambitious and you want to do everything tomorrow. But it takes a lot of years to really build all the technical knowledge, and then even the resource chain to know like where to even get the things that you want to make like your dreams reality. So I would just be cautious to walk before you run. Really be steadfast in your love of it, because if you don't have a dying love that is beyond anything you can imagine, get out now. This is not for you. It's not for you. But if you do have it and you're willing to take all the knocks, because there's plenty all along the way. I don't care what people read, what people are saying. You may be on the cover of Women's Wear and just been like knocked down. Guess what? It's like Saks just bounced that order, and we don't know how we're going to stay in business next season. There's all these things happening in fashion that have nothing to do with the image of fashion. If that's you and you're willing to take all of that, then this is the business for you. And you know what? You will more than likely do well.
Well, thank you for that. And just so people, if they didn't know, this is the kind of designs that Byron Lars is known for. And you have stand on the heels of Willie Ware and Willie Smith and Patrick Kelly, but you've just woven in and taken it even to another level. They're so proud of you. They're just so proud of you. And I love you and proud of you too. And fan, client, and now family friend, Byron Lars, we salute you. If you've never been saluted before, Oakland is celebrating you worldwide on Spotlight with Shonda.
Love you, Oakland.
Love you back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come to New York for us. We'll be there soon.
All right, I will. A big old virtual one.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks.